Okay, sorry about that. We had a small glitch with the camera. So anyway, John has gotten the fuel lines off here. Pulled those loose. They take a little bit of work. You may need to get like a screwdriver or something and pry on them a little to wiggle them out. There's going to be times when you'll see us using power tools, various types, but all the work that we're going to show you, or at least as much as possible, is going to be things you can do by hand with hand tools. We're just using power tools to speed things up for ourselves and make things easier. So on that note, John's going to continue with the disassembly.
Okay, and also I need to note, because earlier in the video I said that the bolt back here was slotted. It is not. I'm used to doing the V8 ones where it's slotted and it just slides back. You have to take that 10 all the way out, and that'll allow you to move these so they're not bolted back in the back of the engine, because if you pull up on these while that's bolted down, you're going to bend these tubes and they're going to be kinked, and then you need to replace your fuel lines. So that's just a small safety note there. Alright, I'm going to take the ignition coil off. We got a small wire hooked to it here. You just pop this little tab and it'll come right out. Set that out of the way. Now, you have your Evap Purge solenoid right here. It goes into your intake. And you see it looks like there's a special connector here with this white. Okay, you see how I can move that? Don't pry on that with a screwdriver. Okay, those are made to come off really easy. You push down on the top, it releases the teeth, and it slides off. Okay, and then when you go back on, it's like a quick connect, it'll snap right back on. So I'm trying to show you so you don't break things. I'm going to get a 10 wobble for this. It's a 10 nut on that. Pull this bracket off the stud, push it back, and now you got to get the other bolt out. Pull that out, it just sits in an O-ring. Okay. Now you also have to get the throttle cable out of the way, and it's also bolted here with brackets that hold the throttle cable here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one out straight down. Get that little nut out of there. Get one off on the front. Now, anytime you're working around an intake like this, you want to be very careful you don't drop any nuts or bolts down inside the intake. If you do that, or even inside this throttle body, you could cause internal engine damage when you fire it up, because it's going to be almost impossible to fish out. Now on this throttle cable, the end of it's here. What you do is you open it wide open, pull the cable around where the slot is, and you can pull that out of there. Okay, that'll get that loose. We got this bracket loose. We're going to take this other 10 out right here. Get our entire throttle cable out of the way. Now we can push this off to the side and out of our way. You can see how everything's slowly taking shape, and we're starting to get some space here in order to unbolt our intake plenum. Now some of the bolts we've already taken out, like the ones that hold your purge solenoid in, they hold this plastic intake down. So really, essentially on this side, we have one. We've already taken two out. Now over on this side, there's another bracket here that holds down the main wiring harness. So we're going to take that nut off. We got the other nut over here. Okay. Pull our two nuts off. Put those in our tray. We can pull this. Should be able to tuck it out of the way. Just like that. Now this is your PVC hose. There's a PCV valve that goes into your valve cover here. Okay. So these elbows like to break, especially if they've been on the car a while. This cap here can actually be turned counterclockwise. Okay, see I turn that to the tab, and you can pull that out of the intake, and that way you've left both of your rubber hoses intact and you didn't break them and have to go to the auto parts store and get another one. Okay, so we got a 10 here. We got the two studs here that we're holding down that bracket you saw me take out, and we got the one over here, and I believe there's two in the back. There's one here and there's one here. Then you got the two in the front, and they're really long, and they go through the throttle body. So we're just going to go around and we're going to take these out. See how long that one is? There's one right here. Caught my glove. I don't even know if I'm on it. Get in over here. Make sure I get on that.
Alright, well, while John gets the rest of these bolts out, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back he'll be ready to remove the throttle body and the intake plenum.
Okay, we got the rest of the bolts out. There's one right underneath this coolant hose, but you can actually compress it a little bit, like I'm showing you here with my finger, and get that out without having to crack open your coolant system. Now you can see this intake is loose. Okay. You see how it's pulling on that injector assembly? What you have to do is push down on your injector assembly as you're pulling up the intake, because that's still attached down below. There it goes. Okay, see how that came out? And there's your spider assembly that I showed you at the beginning of the video. This vehicle has a lot of carbon in it. It also has 200,000 miles, but it's still running. The customer wants to keep her on the road. So this injector assembly sits on this bracket, and it's a Torx bolt under here, but you don't have to go that far. On the sides, it's just snapped into a clip. So you just pry on each side. Now it's out of the bracket, and now we can take the poppets out. I have to get a glove, this is too greasy. We'll be right back.